Normally on my channel we talk all about the good, but today we're transitioning a little bit and we're talking all about the bad. Hello everyone, my name is Alivia Brown and I am currently a third-year undergraduate student at UCLA studying anthropology, and today I am here to talk to you about the cons of majoring in anthropology. I want to preface this by saying I am absolutely obsessed with my major and I wouldn't have it any other way. So please know who your source is, and if you're looking for cons from someone who hates anthropology, I'm probably not your girl. And now that I've said that, I think we can actually get into the topics and the reasons. Okay, the first reason, which might actually surprise people, is the fact that anthropology is so broad. And this is a good thing for a lot of reasons, but it can also be a bad thing for a lot of reasons. And remember, today we're here to talk about the bad things. So the first thing that this concept reminds me of is that a lot of people who you may go to school with, maybe they're studying poli-sci or maybe they're studying statistics, these people tend to have a more direct path as far as career options go. So maybe you're a poli-sci undergrad and you want to go be a lawyer, or maybe you're a statistics undergrad and you want to be a data analyst later on. There kind of is like a point A, point B, point C type of situation. Whereas for anthropology, because there's so many different categories within anthropology and there's so many different opportunities, it can be really hard to actually know what you want to do. And for that reason, you have to be really in touch with yourself and your needs and what you want to do. And that's a lot of pressure and can be really challenging. The next point that I have is that anthropology tends to be a small program. And what can happen in a small program is because there's less students, you actually have a harder time building a support system because there's less people. So I have a lot of friends in the anthropology department in general. I don't want to like discount that, I do, but not a lot of those people are actually in my subfield. So I look at biological anthropology, but a lot of the people who I'm friends with are actually in archaeology or culture or even linguistics. So because of that, because there's so few of me, so few biological anthropology students, there we go, it can be really hard to build connections with people who are passionate about the same thing that you are, but also have like the knowledge base that you do. So just building that support system and those study systems can be really challenging. So the third point that I have is that sometimes it's hard to get into the meat of the topic. So anthropology tends to have, depending on where you go to school, of course, 4 main subgroups that you have to take classes in, and you have to take lower divisions in them and you have to take upper divisions in them. And so what can happen is, for someone like me, again, I'll use the example of biological anthropology. I love biological anthropology and I want to take more classes in biological anthropology. But unfortunately, I have to fulfill these cultural requirements, these archaeology requirements, and the linguistic requirements. And so when you add these all together, sometimes it can be hard to get enough of what you like. But I will say a lot of majors are like this because every major, it's hard to get specific. So I don't want you to think that's just anthropology, but because we're talking about anthropology today, that is a big con. The next thing, this is something that's hard for me, it might not be hard for everyone, is that it is impossible to be an expert in anthropology. Now, there are 4 main subgroups, we've said this, okay, but there are subgroups within subgroups within freaking subgroups, okay? So maybe you are an archaeology student, okay, and then within archaeology, maybe you have a passion for Egypt, all right? I've talked to people who are obsessed with Egypt. And within Egypt, there's actually different things then that you would specialize in. So maybe it's certain things that you're looking for, certain cultures that you're investigating. So even though you might be like an Egyptian archaeologist, I don't know the correct terminology because I don't really focus on archaeology, you can't possibly know everything there is to know about Egypt. And the same goes for studying cultures around the world, studying languages around the world. What you know and what you study will be so specific that it's impossible to be an expert in like the big picture of anthropology. Number 5 is, this is probably the one that I struggle with the most, and that is, to be an anthropologist, you actually have to go through a ton of school, like a ton of school. You need to get your PhD or a master's degree at the minimum. A master's degree program is 2 years, and if I'm not mistaken, if I am mistaken, someone please correct me down below, but if I'm not mistaken, a PhD program can take anywhere from 4 to 8 years. It might be 5 to 8 years. But what I've heard, because I've talked to a lot of different graduate students, is that it never takes the amount of years on the lower end. It's always going to take the amount of time on the upper end because these programs and these schools want you there for a really long time. and it's kind of just a messed up system, and grad students aren't happy, and it's all these things. And I'll talk about that in a different video, I'm sure, at some point when, you know, when I'm attempting to become a grad student or whatever it is I decide to do. But yeah, you need a lot of school to become an anthropologist, and that's really intimidating. I feel like I've been in school my entire life. Did anyone else do pre-K? I don't know if that counts, but like I've literally been in school since I was so little, and I'm just like, okay, when will it end? It's possible if I decide to do a PhD that I will be taking like 8 more years of school, and that, you know, feelings. So this point that I'm about to share with you is actually the last point, and that is the fact that a lot of people don't understand what anthropology is. And I mean, there could be good things about that, but at the same time, I have a really hard time telling people what my major is and walking away from that conversation knowing that they don't actually know what I study. So I remember I went to this family gathering one time, and I don't even know who it was. They asked me about my major, and I was like, oh, I study anthropology. They're like, oh, that's so interesting, like bones and stuff. I was like, okay. Like, I just didn't know how to respond, because there's obviously so much more to anthropology. You could study infinite things in so many ways. Everything is kind of anthropology, but again, I won't get into that. And so I feel this need to explain to people what it is that I study every single time, and overcompensate for what it is that I'm studying. And that can be really hard. When you tell people that you are a math major, I feel like you get your point across, you know, but when I tell people that I study like the human experience, they're like, what does that even mean? You know?
Hello friends, it's a little late, but I'm editing this video and I realized I didn't really talk about like the money side of things. Some anthropologists make a lot of money, some don't make that much money. It's really variable. That's like the biggest reason I decided not to put it in here, is because it really depends on who you are and just like where you end up. So like being an anthropology major doesn't inherently mean you're gonna make like a lot of money or a little bit of money. I think it has a lot more to do with the fact like what you choose to do with it, if that makes sense. It's a lot about like the person and the path that you choose versus the major itself. So yeah.
Okay, so those are my 6 points on the cons of an anthropology major. That's what I could come up with, at least. And if you are a grad student or maybe even an undergrad and you have some other cons that you would like to share with me or the people watching these videos, I want to give people the like least biased experience that they can have with the videos that I make. And I know that I'm very enthusiastic about anthropology 95% of the time. So I did want to get something a little bit different out to you all. As always, I will have my sources linked down below, and I have some other fun information down there if you want to check out the description box. You can follow me on Goodreads. That's pretty much the only social media I use. So when people ask me for like the other ones, I don't use them. So I'll give you my most active one. I have some exciting things coming soon. It's the end of our quarter here at UCLA. So freaking gotta get through finals and then we're done, which is so exciting. And I can devote a little bit more of my time and energy to these videos and providing you guys with some of your requests. So I think that's it. I actually have to go study, so that's a good time. But I will see everyone next Sunday, and yeah, I hope you're having a great day. All right, bye.